I'm going to open the meeting for the September 27th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals. Meeting is now open. We're going to conduct this meeting as rules and procedures adopted by this board. In an unlikely event of an emergency, please notice there's an exit over here and an exit over here. Please get out safely. Introduction of board members. Two board members here. We have Jill Tardy, Tom Ruthven. I'm Jeremy Marshall, Tom George. Got Sarah as the clerk of the board, Grant as director of development, our zoning officer, John Weinborn. Dan over for code enforcement. Did I get it right? All right. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also, I make note that over virtual we have Ed Heminger, who is the chairman of the planning board, just joining us tonight. All right, approval of the minutes from the August 23rd meeting. Do I have a motion to approval of the minutes?
I motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Minutes are approved. I tested the legal publishing of the legal notices. There was two published on September 19th in tonight's agenda. ZB 0901 skylight signs and ZB 090221 for T Bean, is that right? Properties. Okay. We're going to continue the public hearing from last month for GA development construction by Woods Ovia Gilman LLP. This is for a proposed. Just one on the agenda or your resolution. Request an area variance, wishes to erect a structure on proposed lot R2 and a drawing entitled preliminary site plan for proposed financial institution Farmington Commons Plaza. Anybody here to speak for or against it? Just please state your name and go from there.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Jerry Goldman. I'm from Wazovia Gilman. Here this evening on the application for G&A Development and Construction Corp. With me this evening are Jim Stefopoulos, who is one of the principals of G&A. He is right in the middle of the room. And also Matt Tomlinson, who is the project engineer from Marathon Engineering. Matt's going to be my technical assistant because if I try to do it, I'm certainly going to mess it up. So for what it's worth, I will present the application. You have received a full application package from us. You have also received initially a draft resolution, then you received a revised draft resolution from town staff. And we put in a supplemental letter of intent last week, and I just wanted to check that did all the board members get a copy of that letter? I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much and appreciate the opportunity this evening to come and speak with you about the application. The overall project is to essentially make room for a credit union to be located on the frontage of Route 332. Matt is highlighting that right now. In the Farmington Commons Plaza at the far south end, you have the Aldi building. The Burger King already exists, and there is a plaza building on the north side of the building. And then there is space along the frontage, part of which is going to be occupied by a credit union. It was a difficult challenge for us to be able to get them in and to get them on the site. We think it's a nice complementary use for the site. It doesn't generate a whole lot of traffic in and of itself. We have reviewed this with state DOT and said that we really needed to address nothing with regard to this due to the nature of the use and what we are talking about. We've been working with town staff and working with the planning board for a number of months on this. I see Ed kind of looking over my shoulder. Hi, Ed. How you doing? Ed always looks over my shoulder, so it's okay. So for what it's worth, when we were last at the planning board, we talked about this particular application. At that time, we had a design of this building and design of the site, which required 3 variances. One thing that we have to deal with is that the credit union, the potential tenant, told us that they needed to see us on a separate subdivided lot on the site, and the design which had come up required 3 variances. One of which you granted last month, and that's 280A variance, because we are not going to access directly onto Route 332. We are going to share the entrance with all the Burger King and the plaza on Route 332. That 288 variance is more or less perfunctory, and that variance was granted last month. That left us with 2 variances initially. One was that we had designed the building to be 100 feet back, or excuse me, 80 feet back from the road, to essentially line up with the plaza building. When in our discussions with the town planning board said that they didn't like that variance, and therefore we moved the building back. And at last month's meeting, we did withdraw that variance. The variance which is left is a variance for the side setback of the canopy, if you will, on the building. Right there, as Matt is pointing out, because we had to have a subdivided lot, because the credit union has limited us to 1 acre in size. We had this configuration. The credit union also had required us to design for 3 drive-through lanes, which, even as we went through the planning board process, was deemed to be a good thing, because that lessens the amount of stacking that there would be for any drive-through, or what's referred to as ITM, not ATM lanes. It's not a full ATM. It's just basically, allows people to conduct limited business on those particular sites. As we pointed out in the letter which I sent along on September 20th, I did note a number of dimensions for you to take a look at. The town setback requires a 30-foot setback from property line. The edge of our canopy to that property line is 18.6 feet, I believe. In addition, the actual measured distance to the Burger King building, from the edge of the canopy to the edge of the Burger King building, is about 89 feet. To the actual building to building between the credit union building and the Burger King is about 132 feet. So typically setbacks are established to try to create some separation between uses so that they aren't close together. And what we're depicting with this is that we aren't close together with this, that we have good distance separation. We think good planning and good design. This application was reviewed by the county planning board as required under General Municipal Law 239N, and they recommended approval of the variance. In addition, the town planning board at their meeting reviewed the site plan, and we specifically requested their input relative to it, and that's provided in our letter as well, where the town planning board had recommended approval of the variance. And at the end of the day, what you have is a draft resolution, which is in front of you right now. The draft resolution itself is very well crafted in terms of its structure. It does review all the legal standards which are necessary to be taken a look at as a part of an area variance application. If you turn to the 3rd page of that recommendation, the major standard is in bold in the middle of the page, and it's a balancing of the benefit to the applicant as opposed to any detriment to the community or neighborhood. We establish the benefit to the applicant. One, we have a credit union which is willing to come here. We don't have a lot of flexibility with them. They have some demands relative to their site. and relative to what is necessary for them to move this forward. The benefit to us is really to design a site which the engineers have determined is a properly designed site as well. One thing that you don't see anywhere, either in the resolution or elsewhere, is anything which talks about the detriment to the community or neighborhood. Because in fact, there really isn't any detriment to the community or neighborhood as a result of this particular variance, given the distance separations and everything else. There are considerations which a board is supposed to take a look at with regard to that, and that is on the starts on the first page. There are the five questions, if you will. We're in agreement with the draft resolution, which really is basically a town staff recommendation on this. On questions 1, 3, and 4, we're in agreement that that this will not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood or district. We agree that the variance is not substantial. We agree that the variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. We're in total agreement on that. The real source of not necessarily being aligned with town staff is whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the requested variance, and note feasible because it's very important consideration. The suggestions which have been made as part of the draft resolution is that we can move the property line over. If we move the property line further to the east, we are increasing the acreage, which we have, and the credit union has said that they will not live with that and they won't acknowledge that. That's what they have told us at this point. The second is because we have said, and we have been told by the credit union, that they're only going to have the 2 ITM lanes in place at this time, that why don't you just not get an approval for that side setback for the third and then come in later. They won't sign a lease without it. So we have an issue with regard to feasibility. But even if you don't agree with that, this is a balancing test. This is not an absolute, you must prove the benefit cannot be achieved by an alternative. We have three of the 5 that we agree on. This one we don't agree on, and as a result of that, the 5th one, which is self-creation, also comes into play. And I can tell you that I would be hard pressed, having done this as long as I have, to point to almost any variance that doesn't have some element of self-creation. Whenever someone's coming in for a variance, could they do something else? Sure they could. Okay, but it's not an overriding consideration. And unlike use variances, and I'm sure you see them every once in a while, if you have self-creation and use variance, you're done. You have to prove that there's no self-creation. Here is clearly an element of this balancing test. And even the state law and the resolution says that the consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of an area variance. Because basically, the state law and your local code want to make sure that that is something that you think about, but not necessarily something that you dwell on in terms of the consideration that's here. We don't consider it to be a major, first of all, it's not substantial variance, and staff agrees with that because of the distance. It's 18 feet as opposed to 30 feet. It's not anything monstrous. It also, the building also is far in excess of the setback itself. It is just the canopy, and that's because the interpretation which has been made by the town is that the canopy, the setback is actually measured by the canopy. And I don't want to get into too much nuance and try to challenge that, except for to say that we think that we've essentially established all of what is necessary for the variance itself. We do know that this is going to be subject to subdivision and site plan approval by the town planning board, and we would anticipate that any approval would be conditioned upon that and upon a plan which is similar to this, dealing with the lanes in terms of setback. We aren't asking for a big vote. We're actually asking for us to be able to do what is here. With that, I don't know if there's anything more that either Jim or Matt have to add.
I can answer questions.
We'll just be happy to answer questions with regard to the site plan or the variances.
Any questions for him? Zach, got anything for him? No? Anybody else want to speak for or against it? Great, I'm gonna close the public hearing ZB 070121 and open public hearing ZB 090121 skylight signs, 60 Industrial Park Circle, Rochester. Applicant wishes to erect a 61 square foot freestanding commercial speed sign of 28 square foot of it being and moving and motion message signage. The town code prohibits the signage and messages that move or simulate motion in any district. You want to speak for or against it? Great. Just state your name and floor is yours.
Jim Colombo, Skylight Signs, 60 Industrial Park Circle in Rochester, New York. I'm here on behalf of Bobby Martinez and Auto Wash, your new car wash tenant in Farmington. As approved earlier, we do have a illuminated cabinet coming already for that site with an 8-inch square pole, and that cabinet will be associated with this new digital sign, which will be coming further down the road once approved, if approved. And the total square footage on both is 61 total square feet, which is within well of the variance that we're asking for here. The customer is aware of all the variance needs and requests that are for the sign. So Bobby is on Zoom call if you have any questions for the owner at this time too. But I'm here for the sign questions. If anybody has questions on that sign or the cabinet sign that is going up first, please do so at this time.
Anybody on the board have any questions?
So there's not gonna be any flashing?
No, he's gonna, whatever this in the code, as far as overnight too. The sign itself, all watch fire signs have to stay on 24/7. By staying on, I mean, they have to run. We can black them out. We can put one letter up there. We can put a million letters up there. But as far as you guys said, as far as Farmington said, overnight would have to be blacked out. The sign stays on 24/7, can't shut off for obvious reasons, but time and temperature is allowed overnight only, and that's what he would display.
Any other questions? So during the day, is the sign itself going to change?
He said once a day we can change it if that's correct, and that one day maybe
So
he's
it's not
got.
going to be every 5 minutes.
No,
Alert for mail. Easy Pass customer service.
if are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Mondays, all day Mondays, buy one, get one free, all day Tuesdays, town of Farmington people get free car washes or whatever the case may be. He understands the rules and regulations as far as the signs are concerned. And I've sold quite a few here in the town that I think most everybody is adhering to, as far as I know.
Any other questions? Any questions from staff, comments?
The only comment I will say, I agree with the sign company. They have a few here. They're well aware of our rules and everybody does follow them. So, and being blacked out at night, that works fine. Sometimes it's maybe like a red dot that will blink or something, but.
Yeah, I find that more distracting than just keeping a time and temperature on there for people who are going by. But, you know, the sign does have to stay on. Most signs, I know watch fire signs, 100% they do.
Anybody else want to speak for or against this? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, you have a county planning referral, John. You want to read that into the public, please?
Review final classification of class 1 findings. Signs that comply with local dimensional requirements will have the minimal practical level of impact on community character. And the final recommendation is the CVP County Planning Board will make no formal recommendation to deny or approve applications for signs that comply with local limits on size and or number. Great, which that's a new one for them because normally they automatically deny them. So this is the first time it's not an auto denial for them. So perfect.
That's just great to hear. You know, it's 2022 and I'm just trying to move forward the best I can with everything. And keeping everybody happy. So he's gonna do nothing but bring people to your area around here for sure. So he's got 4 or 5 other car washes in the area that are very successful, and he's moving on, looking forward to moving 3 or 4 next year. So you're getting a great company up here.
I will say for the record that Mr. Martinis
Martinis, yes.
has gotten site plan approval from the planning board. He is contributing to the Main Street corridor. He's also contributing sidewalks along Mertensia, so we'll be able to get the people out of the road and onto those sidewalks for the daily groceries and everything else that they have to deal with. And we're putting together a very good package here with this site, with the adjacent Myers campus, and also with Maddie's Power Sports. So the corridor is starting to take shape. And we appreciate everything.
Question, how far is the town line from the auto wash, far west coming in? Because I was thinking is, putting on that sign, welcome to Farmington, and thank you for stopping in Farmington on the other side.
It's what, quarter of a mile?
West from there probably, right? That's just a thought, Thank you very much for the opportunity, everybody.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I will close public hearing ZB 09-21. Open ZB, public hearing for ZB 09-02-21. T, is it Bean? Beanie? I don't know how to pronounce it. All right, properties. Applicant wishes to erect or wishes to obtain an area variance for a pre-existing non-conforming structure to remain on the parcel land that has a front setback of 30 feet from the front lot line of Kentonshire Drive. Anybody here speak? Quenshire.
That's you.
I'm looking for Gerson Medical. Kevin Bragg with Lucian Construction, I'm representing that application. We are working with VR Foods that owns the property there to do a subdivision to build a new medical office building behind for Gerson Medical. And from what we are told from town staff was that we need an area variance for the setback for the VR building because that was pre-existing non-conforming after they built Quittenshire. So Quittenshire, when that road was built, the VR building was already there. So now as a condition of subdivision of that piece of land to build the Gerson property, we need the area variance for the setback for the existing building. Not the new building. The new building will comply with the setbacks.
Any questions from the board? Any questions or comments from staff?
No, Matt Bragg is correct. When the original Buffalo Supply building was constructed, that was a driveway that served Buffalo Supply and business across the street. When the apartment complex came to Hinsdale, we had the road constructed standard. In doing so, that moved the right of way closer to the building and created the hardship in the applicant. It's a nice building. The one that they're proposing is going to be a nice building, and we think that with Quittenshire and these guys were part of the Quittenshire project when it was here 2 or 3 years ago. So,
Great, anybody else want to speak for or against this? If not, I'm going to close ZB 09-02-21 and move to board deliberations. Board deliberations on ZB 0701 area variance for G&A development construction. So you have a draft resolution. I'm going to say, I'm going to disagree with this draft resolution. I don't think that the detriment, I don't think there's that much of a detriment. The 11.8 or 18.4 feet enough to block something like that coming in. That's just my 2 cents, I'm willing to take motion for the draft resolution that you have in front of you, or,
Mr. Chairman,
oh,
this is Ed Heminger.
hey, Ed,
Can you hear me?
sir.
Okay, I just want to make a couple comments. First off, let me apologize to both the applicant and to the ZBA because there seems to be a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding is that the planning board recommended approval of the side setback. The planning board doesn't recommend approvals to the ZBA. We provide feedback, and we attempted to provide feedback for the side setback by saying we didn't care. We didn't care whether it was approved or disapproved. We did not recommend approval or disapproval. ZBA has the sole authority here, obviously, and I just didn't want there to be a misunderstanding that we had somehow attempted to overstep our bounds in recommending approval. So I just wanted that to go on the record, okay?
Great, thank you, Ed. What's the feedback from the board? You can move the resolution as written, or if you disagree with it, as I do, we can approve the variance with conditions.
Well, if you move to, yeah, then we have to vote on.
If you move the resolution that says type, you would have to vote on it, yes. You're gonna move that resolution? Reckon, it's up to you.
What's your recommendation?
I agree with that, Chairman. I recommend, my recommendation is that we do not do the resolution written by Ron, and we approve the variance with conditions.
Such as.
Some of that area variance for lot R2 of the above referenced subdivision is granted and shall take effect upon, okay. Applicants to obtain from town planning board a final subdivision plat approval for the reference subdivision, and is to be noted that the final plat map identifying resolutions, conditions of approval. There should be a 4-foot high visible barrier installed, either natural or man-made, along the south line of the property between the Burger King restaurant and proposed credit union. Barrier is to commence at the front of the proposed credit union site and extend north to the rear property line. The barrier is so designed as to prevent automobile headlights from entering the site, trespassing onto the adjacent property, or causing glare to motorists on both properties, and to minimize the drifting of snow from the Burger King onto the proposed site. And all site lighting associated with the drive-up teller service for the proposed credit union site shall comply with town code requirements to be approved by the planning board. That's the conditions that we came up with. But again, it's up to your pleasure. Moving right, you said? Moving to approve the variance with those conditions? Is there a second? I second. I read the conditions. Do you understand the conditions of it?
We understand, and if Matt just made a comment, site lighting is something that we're kind of regulated by government, and I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
On this.
So my understanding of town code limits light spill across property lines. Now, we're part of a larger plaza, so it's very common for that light spill to cross over property lines. We are required with any kind of financial institution to comply with the New York State ATM Safety Act. So I believe that you read it compliance with town codes. If that says the New York State ATM Safety Act instead, I think that there's no issue here, but we wouldn't want it to cause an issue with further development of the site if that language was conflicting.
Right, and he's correct, that it's a
Okay,
federal,
so in the condition, town code and New York State ATM Safety Act.
it's a federal.
New York State ATM Safety Act is government for this area. Yeah.
I like that, and if that's all right, you, Jill.
Yes.
So amend the condition to shall comply with town code requirements and ATM Safety Act to be approved by the planning board. So that's fine.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any comments or questions?
So your motion is that you're going to approve with the finding that the detriment to the applicant, the benefit to the applicant
Outweighs the
any
detriment.
detriment to the municipality.
Correct. That would improve the variance then, right?
Right. If you get three votes.
You get 3 votes. Yeah. So any comments or questions before vote? Sarah, can you do a roll call vote?
You supposed to do something.
We did that, and I thought you did.
No, sorry. This wasn't in the minutes, so it didn't. It added in the last
You got the resolution?
I did not have the resolution yet.
They have a resolution.
They should have resolution.
We have a
Seeker,
resolution.
Seeker.
Type 2.
Yep. So if you want to approve seeker with it.
Approve seeker with it.
I would approve the seeker.
Okay, we're gonna hold off on
Classified
that.
as a type 2, therefore no further.
Okay,
environmental.
we're gonna hold off on that one just for a second. Is there a motion to accept seeker? Joe? I second it. Tom seconds it. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Now Jill's. Sarah, now can you do a roll call vote?
Joe? Aye. Todd?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Tom?
Yeah, your variance.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
All right, ZB 090121 skylight signs. Seeker, your motion to accept seeker. Motion to accept seeker. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Seeker. All right. Then you have the findings. Is there any comments or questions? Somebody want to move the resolution? Or the reading of it? Okay, thank you. So
I
second.
second.
Okay. All right, so determination of the zoning board of appeals based on the above facts, zoning board of appeals after reviewing the above 5 proofs finding the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood and community, and therefore request area variance is approved with the following conditions. He's not here. I still need to read it for the minutes, so I don't want to.
Yeah, is Bobby on?
I think Bobby signs.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I'm right here.
Okay, the maximum size of the proposed commercial speech sign shall be 61 square feet total sign area, with a maximum sign area or changeable copy portion of the sign being limited to 28 square feet. Maximum height of the front freestanding sign shall be 15 feet above the existing grade of per town code. The changeable copy portion of the commercial speech sign shall not provide any simulated motion, including flashing, blinking, animated, or rotation signs. The exception to this comparable change portion of the commercial street sign is proposed time and temperature. The area variance is granted with the condition that the applicant agrees to maintain such commercial street sign in accordance with these limitations. Failure to do so could result in the area variance being made null and void. Top cabinets shall be internally illuminated, and the lighting intensity of both signs is to comply with the town lighting standards contained in chapter 165 of the town code. And the proposed electronic changeable copy sign is to operate on a timer and is to remain off during dark time periods when the business is closed. And there shall be landscaping located around the base of the sign in accordance with the final site plan approval granted by the planning board. Planning schedule for this area should be provided and accepted by the town code enforcement officer prior to the issuance of the sign permit. All plantings are to be installed no later than May 31st, 2022. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any comments or questions before a vote? Yes, Ron.
Do you want the time temperature to remain on 24/7? Because the way it's worded, when the business is closed, the sign basically goes black. And I thought,
It says it can have.
I thought it was either or.
Yeah, it says the changeable copy portion of the commercial street speech sign shall not provide any simulated mode, blah, blah, blah. Exception to this changeable copy portion sign is proposed time and temperature.
right, and then you went on to say
So that allows the time and temperature to change throughout the day. So that allows that to move and change.
Oh, okay.
Then you
After
go on,
hours, you mean?
then you go on and say that it can't be on after hours. You want to allow time and temp at night.
Oh.
Yes, we want to allow time and temperature, right? Yes. Yes. Yes, we want to allow time and temperature. Thank
Okay,
you, Ron.
excluding that, yes. Okay.
Thank you. Sarah, can we get a roll call vote?
Jill? Aye. Jeremy?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Tom?
You have your variance.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
You're
You
welcome.
Have a good night.
too. And ZB 090221. See, Gernster Medical?
Yeah, first term up.
Okay. Do we have a motion for seeker? A motion. Seeker. Approval of seeker. A second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Make a motion to waive the reading of, just skip to the determination.
Determination, okay. A second. Second. Determination of the zoning board of appeals based on the above factors, the zoning board of appeals after reviewing the 5 proofs, finding the benefit of the applicant does outweigh any detriment to the neighborhood or community, and therefore the requested area variance is approved with the following conditions. The applicant is to obtain a final subdivision plat approval from the town planning board for proposed lot number 1 from the T, I think it's B, Properties LLC project. Failure to obtain such approval shall make this request null and void. You understand that? Any comments or questions before vote? No? Sarah?
Jill? Aye. Jeremy?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Tom?
You have your variance.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Here,
Other board matters? Any board matters? None? Public comments? Hearing none? Director of Development update.
I don't think of anybody online. No, nobody's online, so we're good.
Okay, first of all, I had been working very hard on getting a grant together, which is going to be submitted tomorrow for additional sidewalks in the town. It's a $2.1 million grant, and we're asking for 1.7 plus in federal monies to construct approximately 17,000 lineal feet of sidewalks, which will bring our total over 100,000 lineal feet of sidewalks since 2011, when the last sidewalk map was prepared. We also adopted a sidewalk master plan map for future planning purposes for the town. And we will, believe it or not, next month be doing our due diligence to start the motions for adopting the 2021 comprehensive plan. All of that has been put on hold given the legal issues with the solar farm, given the decommissioning plan that had to be created for that, which took, I think, 6 or 7 different back and forths to get it to where everybody was happy. And I heard today that there's still one problem with it, so we'll have to adjust that tomorrow. The other thing is that we continue to experience, as Dan can allude to, development activities here in this town. I think that, it's not a surprise that we're now the largest municipality in Ontario County. We have exceeded the city of Geneva, and we jumped ahead of the town of Victor as far as population goes. So we've been very busy. Fortunately, you haven't, which is a good thing because we're doing something right. And I'd just like to compliment you. This last area variance resolution was very difficult to balance, okay, and I didn't know which way to go. So we put it out there and let the chips fall where they may, and I think you did the right thing. I think you made a good decision that doesn't adversely affect the community. And I compliment you on that. John did a great thing of putting together some conditions, which I asked him to do last week, just in case, you know, there was this, well, if we don't act on this, what do we act on? What do we want? And I think you've answered that quite well. I will say that there was someone interested in serving on the zoning board of appeals. I don't know when that appointment's going to be made. Is it on the agenda tomorrow night? I don't see it. I know that the person was going to be here tonight, but unfortunately over the weekend, she was with her sister who came down with a fever this morning, and she's asked her sister to go get tested for COVID. So she decided not to, getting the hint that female. Okay. I think he'll be very happy if the town board does move forward with this candidate. Very nice person.
Thanks, man. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Anything from zoning?
Well, I guess I'll cross off open board member. It's the first time we're hearing of this, so I
Yeah,
guess we don't have that
last
anymore.
night.
So,
Well,
and we do have a clerk of the board position that's still available. Sarah's filling in.
Sarah's doing a great job.
Pro temp, whatever.
She's a champ. Get your time to have.
We will have a meeting next month.
Yes.
We have 2 applications for you guys to review next month. And that's it from me.
So, Ron did mention that development is still going. It's keeping Ron very busy on top of all the other responsibilities that he has. And you'll see the PRC agenda is out, still a lot of projects on that. A lot of, last month we did a lot of pre-construction meetings. So building is still happening, and we're still seeing, just today, another development that's talking about coming in. So, and they're not small either. So they're big projects and keeping us all very busy. So.
Next tentative date, October 25th, 2021, we're gonna have one. Any comments, questions before we close? Motion to adjourn? Motion second? That's second. All in favor?
Aye.